My father kept telling me not to take my coat off. Let the others do it, he said, and that's the way you want to make money. But I couldn't see it that way. I was very keen on Bugattis and things. Well, there were three men and one assistant, which associated with craftsmen's made cars. Real good stuff, you know. Bugatti was an expert, and everybody acknowledges now that he was an artist in metal, as they say. These pictures, rather fortunately, I've had them from more or less the start, you know, even before the start, if that's possible. I've got a picture here of when I was at school. I remember the house we lived in. I just joined the grammar school, and I was 10 and a half years old. And it was a contraption I'd made from pram wheels and things like that. And the novelty was it had a crank device which enabled me to drive around the garden paths under my own steam, which I liked very much. But that illustrated to me quite clearly that I needed a motor to propel it to make it more interesting, you see. So I didn't waste any time. Within a few years, one of my father's friends was coming from Leeds, and he was coming on a thing, well, it was described by the people in Leeds as a bug, but that was short for bug, which was short for Bugatti. And I took one look at it and I decided that's it. That's the very thing. It wasn't much bigger than the little cars I'd been making to go around the garden paths at Cavendish Road and Bronsby Park where we lived. And fortunately, it wasn't, I was getting on then, I was about 16, I was able to find a Bugatti and bought one which I have a picture of here, which is a Brescia with two magnetos in the dashboard, 4 valves per cylinder, and about 6 foot 3 inches wheelbase, or 2 meters, I believe, I forget which. And that is it's my first Bugatti. That's my prep school mate, Dick Mead, with me at Llandudno with the Great Orme in the background on that epic journey. Dick went on to the haberdashers and I went on to the Kilburn Grammar. My father I managed to convince him that this wonderful Brescia was the right thing to have and a Bugatti, and he agreed. And I said, on the other hand, if I had a more modern one, perhaps everything would be better, you see. And he listened painfully to this, and I did in fact find a more modern one that was available. It was Type 37, beautiful blue, no mudguards, imported by Sir Malcolm Campbell in 1927, on offer to me in 1929. So I said to my father that for £200, which they're asking, and in view of the £42.10 I'd sold my Brescia for, perhaps he would be interested to take shares in this purchase. And I must say, my dad was very decent. He bought the whole thing, the £200 worth. I've got one here. This is the second Bugatti. This one is rather a foolish, well, I thought the idea was to go around a corner with your foot hard on the accelerator. And I discovered that it wasn't the thing to do, because in this picture you see I've spun right round, hit a tree, and there's one wheel on the ground. And the crowd loved it. They all laughed and roared. They thought it was the most marvellous thing they'd seen for years. But I felt a bit ashamed, actually, about that. But then I learned things. You learn if you make a few mistakes. That's the way to learn. And that brings us to another one, another car altogether, I think. Yes, this is the third Bugatti. I've got it written here, 1931. This is the supercharged Type 37A, brand new. Again, I had to persuade my father that it would be better to have a more modern car with bigger brake drums and a supercharger. And my father said, but doesn't a supercharger mean it'll go faster? I said, yes, that's the idea, Father. You know, good idea too. So my father bought me that one. That was £500, new one. It should have been £750, but that was the going rate for a chap with money in his pocket, so we got it for £500. And I took it to Shelsley Walsh. Didn't do very well because the magneto misbehaved somewhat. It misfired. In '29, there was a note in the sporting notes of one nom de plume Casque, C-A-S-Q-U-E, Casque. He wrote the sporting notes. He was really S.C.H. Davis, celebrated Le Mans driver and TT type of driver, and Brooklands and that sort of thing, and a very wise, nice man. And he said that he'd been approached by a gentleman who felt that the Bugatti was such a famous make that it would be nice to have a club. If anybody was interested, would they get in touch? So I wrote straight away and said, yes, I am interested, and I'd like to meet these people, or this man. So it turned out to be Colonel Giles and Eric Giles, his brother, who were interested in forming a Bugatti club, and they were, of course, big owners of Bugattis. They had plenty of new ones, nice cars. So I went to meet them, and there and then we decided to form a club. And that made me, of course, a founder member. And I was very pleased to be a founder member too. And we registered the name as a limited company to ensure that nobody else could use our name. After having asked Bugatti whether we could use his name, which is important because we were using his name, and he said it would be very nice if we would do that, he'd be pleased. And Bugatti was very charming and very nice. And he gave us, as you know, a car as a trophy, and he also gave us silver cups and things to win. And he behaved very well. And then he came to our events, and Jean, his son, came to the racing events. So we got on very well with the Bugatti family. But that's how it was formed. It was formed in 29, and well, about the time we're talking now, 31, 32, as far as I remember, I think there were about 80 members. But the Bugatti proportion was very high. For example, if you went to a rally, and there are pictures in this book of different rallies, you can see rows of Bugatti radiators, probably 50 cars, Bugattis, and perhaps 30 other makes. It never looked back. We had our difficulties from time to time, but as you know, the club today, it's a very sound and flourishing club. In my opinion, the best club in the world, of course. Oh, here's a rally here, Leg and Arms, well, Broadway, and this is what you used to see. Look at all the Bugattis, right away down in front of the hotel. Oh, and Colonel Sorrell stepping out there. He's right in front of me. I'm sitting in my little Grand Prix with my prep school friend, Dick Mead. Colonel Sorrell I knew very well because I used to go to Brixton Road for the spare parts, you see. And what always gave a small boy, like I was then, a great pleasure was that you would be talking to the store's manager, Bowling, who was a very knowledgeable man. It was a marvellous show because if Bowling didn't quite know, he would call Michel in. And Michel would tell him exactly how many thousand, and where you screw it up and everything else. And he didn't used to give you a data sheet, they used to tell you how to do it, which is take it up until it's tight and then back it off a quarter turn and put the split print in. That's the language the average man can understand. Anyway, Colonel Sorrell would come out of his little cage, which was up the end of the Brixton Road Emporium, and sail down the whole length of the place like a big sailing ship, because he was a huge man and he was a gentleman. And he would come and say, "Good morning, Mr. Burton. Le Patron is delighted with your performance last week." And then, of course, you would say, what happened? You may think that you were on the carpet, you see, but no. He was talking about a race you happened to have won or something the previous week. Same third Bugatti. You can see the hole in the bonnet here, where the supercharger blow-off valve blows off when there's something wrong with the mixture. You can see the big brake drums and wire wheels. That was the fashion. That year, Bugatti sent over 4 of these. I had one, you see. And the supercharger, you can see, is in the box below here. And the big brake drums and the wire wheels, it was a nice arrangement. And if you treated that car like it should have been treated, with a 110 or 115 maximum and not too higher revs in the indirect gears, it would last 1,000 years, in my opinion. 1,000 years or more. But no, you never do that. If you want to go faster than the next chap, I was doing up to 6,000 revs on this car, which was at least 500 or getting over 1,000 more than Bugatti recommended. But I blew it to pieces in the end. You can see the crankcase has got a window in it. The cylinder block's lost a skirt. The conrod is made into an S-bend, and all of it's together here. A sorry sight. But as I said before, Bugatti was very kind. He sent me the new top and bottom crankcase and the cylinder block at a very reduced fee on account of the fact that I was a keen user of his product, and I did the work. Oh yes, he was my French agent, charming nobleman from Spain, Gennaro Leos, you know, strong as Gennaro. And he used to get these Bugattis and phone me or write me, and I used to buy them in batches of 4 and 5 and 6 at a time. And he had a good idea. He used to choose me ones that went and didn't go wrong. And I had another agent in Belgium, one in Germany and one in Italy. In Italy, Tullio Colombo was the Italian one. No, they were just fellows like us, and they would mix with people that we mix with, and they'd suddenly say, I know a man who's got a Type 43 Bugatti, and he wants £110 for it. And then another message I might get is, I have a Bugatti Type 41 Royale, 2-seater, on offer at £750, you see. And I'd pick the phone up and talk to them, or I'd drop the line back and say, I'm not buying this week, but keep telling me. And I liked it very much. Furthermore, if there wasn't any wind, you could read your Observer or your Telegraph. It was so comfortable. Going around Brooklands, for example, on the outer circuit, which everybody knows was quite bumpy, on a Grand Prix Type 51, you'd land on the side of the car with your bottom half out the car. Yeah. There's quite a sharp edge too, by the way. Yes, I know. Half of it would be out the car on certain. If you went, some people had belts, but I never had a belt. In those days, it seemed to me a peculiar thing. But I noticed one or two of the other chaps at the track used to put these belts on. Yes, I was an avid buyer of Bugattis, and this offer of the Royal came up with a very low mileage, and I must say I was very interested in it. When I got there, I went to Paris, and when I got there I saw this magnificent device. It was cream colour, the body, a smart 2-seater with 2 red leather armchair seats in it, no lights, and the whole thing looked attractive. And I left Paris telling my man to have it. I gave him a cheque for it. And then when I got home, Hitler gave one of his speeches, and my father and I used to talk about things, and he said, it doesn't look too good. He said, if you want to reduce your stocks. And so I phoned up my friend Leo's in Paris and told him to dispose of it. Yeah, this letter here from Bugatti's, signed by old Bugatti, dated, yeah, 1945. He's saying that he can't let me have any spares because the Germans have taken everything away. Ah, yes, we must have been trying to ask him for spare parts. That's his signature, all right, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Mm. Poor man, he's actually signed it. Eric Charles phoned me up and he said, look, Captain Foster wants us to dispose of his Royale. And I said, but it's a great big limousine, isn't it? He said, yes. He said, but he still wants to dispose of it. So I said, what sort of figure? And Eric Charles said, well, he did mention £750. So I said, well, I'll phone him up, shall I? So they gave me the number, I phoned up, I spoke to his secretary and said that I'd heard the car was for sale and that without seeing it, I would buy it for £500. And the next day they phoned back to say that'd be quite all right, come and get it, you see. So we took a very sturdy vehicle with us and with a couple of mechanics, and we had to unjack it because it'd been jacked up all through the war, you see. And we got it down and we pumped the tyres up. A terrible task that was, and we towed it on account of the pull that Bugatti had on me, I couldn't change my allegiance. So here I am, I'm a Bugatti man. I'm proud of it too. But that's it.